Hi, you guys. It's MJ from Alta Love. How are you? So today, based on one of your guys's request shares, I want to talk about my green ray cosmic spiritual awakening dream. I am aware that I've maybe done the odd share about this, or certainly inserted mid ramble share about my cosmic dream that I had back in Vancouver when I first moved out west. And ultimately, these series of events that were just in the moment, and they completely shifted my reality. And of course, when I tried to go back and be normal or fit into society or do what society or people in the world told me to do, I would end up in toxic patterns and or just completely depressed. And within the last 3 years I have had experiences which made manifest in real time that were connected to those early awakenings. So I'm aware that in a physical manifested sense that I've arrived somewhere that I was guiding myself from those dreams. So, as far as collective intuitions go, and you're asking about the cosmic dream that I had, and I call it again the green way because of the expanding energy of spiritual awakening is bringing more and more of our inherent wisdom to the fore. It's bringing it online. We're very much helping each other do that. And so for me, what I'm aware of sharing this is that these forms of experiences in our lives, we can call them spiritual awakenings. And yet, on an energetic sense, what I'm hearing and getting is that they are rainbow activations. And the rainbow activations have to do with our connection to the solar rainbow, I'm getting. And I feel like it has something to do with the divine blueprint of the self and earth. It has to do with it's like our primary container, and there's a blending in that container where the white light is the unifying force field of our solar essence. And I feel like so this is weird part for me as well. There's a part of my mind that wants to try to intellectualize the rainbow. That might sound bizarre. But it's to do with how our awareness of colors or cosmic rays or rainbows isn't necessarily obvious. So rather, again, it's a sort of geometric pattern where these sorts of activations in the spiritual descending into the physical certainly has to do with our individual awakening and the awakening of the mass, but the colors have to do with partly our own soul's essence in connection to earth. And then what I'm also hearing is that there's pockets of humanity that are different colors. I'm not sure about that. Okay, so there's another piece coming through about okay, so we've got the rainbow activations, which are awakenings of a sort. And then the solar rainbow would only probably be specific for like a small number of us, but the solar rainbow has to do with the solar children. Solar children are certainly bringing light to the earth. Ugh. Even my own ego doesn't like where this is going. Yeah, and that's essentially what the light worker movement is. It's the solar children are awakening. Solar children are the teachers of the Earth star. And the children of Earth are innocent beings and beings of light, but they've been misguided and enslaved, which we all know about. In our chosen Earth suits, we've chosen the experience of enslavement to understand it, to have compassion. There's another piece of this I'm hearing about these dreams, awakenings, rainbow active iPad. None of it really matters. Like the words don't matter. Somebody was asking me about substance as well. Once again, my awareness with that is that all of it has a function and all of it has a place. That so long as we're pushing against, we're actually pulling it in. So long as we're denying, we're actually perpetuating the effect. So making anything bad or good is ultimately an aspect of our duality, which is a separation of self, which will always lead us back to the self anyway. So if we deny a primal desire as a soul to endeavor anything, food, shopping, sex, drugs, we that denial will still make itself manifest in some form. It's only because our social imprinting focuses on these aspects as good or bad that even as we endeavor our spiritual awakening journey, I did this too. We hold on to these concepts for a really long time, like substance is bad, purity is good. And again, that would be a dogmatic, institutionalized perception, but like really planted into our beingness, which is why we're working it out, and we have to keep working out from within the self, and no one and no thing can tell you otherwise, except the fact that we tend to engage with a lot of external information. And it's something that I've come off Facebook now, and I with my little organite blocks, and as I continue to streamline my focus, I will continue to share like the effect that I'm experiencing, because there's a lot coming through, and it's really subtle. And this is where our connection points with different people are so relevant. This is why our ability to forgive, love, accept, let go, forgive, love, accept, let go is so mega powerful, because the old programming would potentially want to trigger us to go back into denial, um, go back into fear. Yeah, that's quite huge. Experiencing that as well. As far as the going back into the fear, we create the false illusion, and then we have a choice to give into that or not. There's a lot happening in the financial system right now, and there's a lot of us being triggered in all of our unworthiness wounds, which are obviously connected to everything in the green ray of abundance. And that as I'm like saying that, this is new information for me as well. The green ray is also to do with abundance on earth. And for whatever reason, I feel connected to that because ever since my awakenings, I've had this mission, like make lots of money to give it away, like just to give to the poor, right? And so I feel like part of the green ray belt of awareness has to do with generosity and abundance of spirit, to remind humanity that we're not greedy in nature. It's not a natural divinity aspect to the human blueprint. That's a imprinted one. That's a false. And yet, here's the interesting thing: that the more I, in my egoic or personality illusion, the more I chase the money, the more it eludes, the more it's like smoke and mirrors everywhere. And that is to do with the true essence of abundance, is to do with the giving of self. And there's a giving of self in every like in every way. And this is again where it comes back to non-judgment is the ultimate, because we don't even realize how easily judgment can like trip us up, you could say. So, and this is where we go back to the substance piece, and or anything. It would be no different than me, and I still do it. That's why I share honestly, is like I'm outworking myself in reflection with all of you, which we are all doing. So anyone that puts them in any kind of authority is under a bit of a spell, I'd say. Because we are always reflecting one another. We're always in any aspect of hierarchical order in authoritarianism is a destructive construct. And by that I just mean it's a construct that we can kind of bring it down. Because inherently I just feel always with that sense of gurudom that we have a mass giving power to external mastery, which is part of the expected paradigm shift manifestation of having a more equal playing field when it comes to our economic standing on the planet, i.e., not having a few people just stealing from the masses. Oh yeah, and that's what I was saying about the judgment piece. It's always there's this inner conflict of judgment which puts us separate from the experience and the other. So whether it's our perception of drugs are good or blah blah blah, whether it's our perception of, and this just came up recently, meat is good and plants are bad, or whatever. I would have the other one, meat is bad and plants are good, or anytime there's a judgment around our bodies, anytime it's subtle, and it gets subtler and subtler and subtler, and yet it never has to do with the physical manifestation. And anytime we have a binary judgment against, it's only representative of a conflict that anything outside of us has power, including the substance, including the food, including the flesh. And and yet here's the thing with all this. I would say that as the awakening or the embodiment of greater light takes truth in our form, the way these certain things call to us just don't call to us in the same way. And so what I'm noticing in the collective, it's that there's just a softening around, like, what I'm noticing as I'm launching vegan love, because this is part of my creative outpouring, is that naturally more people are gravitating and or desiring less meat. Just naturally. It just doesn't resonate. They're not holding on, but they're not fighting against. They're just like, that's not as appetizing to me anymore. So I'm going to choose this. So there's a natural and or you could say quantum like coherence is happening, sway, that as our bodies enlighten, the density of flesh, not to mention obviously the environmental destruction of that industry, is feedbacking to us that where we're vibrating is less in alignment with that. It's not that that is bad or wrong, it's that we're in our energetic kind of alignments, we're resonating away from that. We're vibrating away from that. As a collective, we're saying more plants. And then something else that I'm getting from you guys is like the plant as a organism is the kind of highest form of technology. So we're awakening to our natural divine blueprint, and the plants are helping us and the contrast is helping us, and that again is where judgment comes in. It's not like I'm saying, okay, just go out and eat all the meat that you want. At the same time, I'm not saying that. If that is your true desire, I would absolutely say, well, if that's who you feel yourself to be, then go be that. Again, every soul is divine. The only thing that I can ever work on is my own energy. Where am I putting my attention? What's coming up for me? And almost always any feedback resonance, which is a trigger, or a wound, is always an opportunity for me to look at where some belief might be distorting my reality. And straight up, I've worked through a lot of shame and guilt, but right now there's like this there's like superficial layer of kind of like still this sort of struggling pain and hatred and opposition, and also this persecution energy is still coming through. And that's part of this next veil of awakening that I'm hearing for many as they start to have their veils be lifted. Um, that their experience will interconnect with all of us. And then here's the thing, that's part of it. Like, it's because in our past life memory, in the cells of our body, we have that imprint of being persecuted, hung, burned, beaten, whole villages. Past life memory. um so so no kidding, we have the memory bank in our beingness of it's not safe to be me. That's a huge part of this, like, and why these last few years have been so incredibly sort of wild, weird, destabilizing, is that for many of us as souls, this is just my memory and my intuitive knowing, for many of us as souls, regardless of how many lifetimes we've incarnated as a form, each time we were kind of taken out at a specific moment in our life. And in this lifetime cycle, we've made it. So we got past the point where all of us would have been persecuted in a different lifetime. And then we're helping to activate and assist one another in these activations and awakenings, and to also help one another call out the bullshit. And that can be just simple conversations we're having and experiencing and also how we're experiencing, reflecting it back to one another. And what I'm aware of is outworking any like block from within that would have me believe that anything my soul desires is negative or somehow detrimental. But that is what the mainstream propagated messaging around spiritual awakening is that there's like a path that we're all supposed to follow. Now, there again, there is a kind of element of truth to that for sure. At the same time, the way that we're going to get there is going to be different, and we have to be willing to be loving and compassionate rather than right or wrong. And I think that is a really relevant piece. So I'm going to leave it there, you guys. Sometimes when there's like kind of stuff that's a little bit more out there for me, I find I have to go unlisted because I'm like, this information isn't super duper anchored, but I can feel that it is relevant, and it's perhaps stuff that will continue to come through. So if I don't share it now, I might never share it. So I hope that was useful to you guys. And if it resonated, great. If not, great. Have a great day. I love you. Thank you so much for being here, you guys. Take care.